Hi everybody, Miss Leslie here from Salinas Public Library. It is time for this month's preschool kit to go. Inside you will find some papers, some activity suggestions, and some bits and pieces that you can play with in specific ways to have some fun learning with your little ones. These activities are geared for kiddos ages 3, 4, and 5. And while it is going to be fun to play with them, your little one will also be learning some important skills that will help them be ready when it's time to enter kindergarten. So let's see what's in this bag and have some fun. Inside your kit, you will find a packet of papers. They are English on one side and Spanish on the other. You will find one sticky heart or sticky hand that will be wrapped in a little plastic bag. They are very sticky. You will have a box of tiny conversation hearts and a collection of other hearts. You will have some, they might be different colors in these ones, some little ones that are fabric and sponge. You will have some little heart erasers, I think in 3 different colors. And you will have some acrylic hearts in pink and red. And the last thing that is in your kit is a pair of child tweezers. These are a great thing to use for developing that hand strength. So let's see what we can do with these. Let's take a look at this paper. It has 6 10 frames, which are in different colors. This little unit with 10 squares with 5 and 5 is called a 10 frame, and your kiddos will definitely see these when they get into kindergarten. It's just a good way to visualize quantities and really helps with that subitization and also understanding counting too. So let's go ahead and take our hearts and open them up. You can either dump them out on the table or put them into a container, whatever you want to do. I'm going to dump mine into a container, and you'll see that you should have different colors in there. So our first activity can simply be a sort using these colors. Now, this one's supposed to be yellow. It looks like it came out a little bit differently, but that's okay. Now, any of these activities, or for the most part, most of them, can use these tweezers. So these hearts are fairly easy compared to what we have here to pick up with the tweezer. Now, it does require that squeezing hand strength, and your child will likely hang on to it like this rather than this. But whichever way works for them, we basically want them to be able to pick up a single heart and then place it where it goes. So we're just going to place by color. And go ahead and keep doing that until you've got all of them set up where you need them. And then once you've got a bunch in your 10 frames, you can talk about how many are in each square. Go ahead and count them, pointing to them as you count. Then you can talk about concepts like more or less. Which one do you have more of? Which one do you have the most of? Which one do you have less of? Which one do you have least of? And I'm just going to put a few more out here. Once you've got them all sorted, or once you have a fair number, it's going to make it easier for them to see which you have the most of, which you have the least of. So here we go. We could count these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Using these 10 frames over time, kiddos will get to know that if the first row, the top row of a 10 frame is filled, that's actually a quantity of 5. Now, if we want to get a little more complicated here, you could say there are 5 hearts here. How can you make it to have the same number as what is in this square, this 10 frame? And so they would have to remove 2. Now that's actually starting to teach subtraction. You could also say if you start with 1 pink heart, if you start with 1 pink heart, if you start with 2 pink hearts, how many do you need to add here to make it the same? And there we go. So this little sheet will let you do sorting. We'll practice that fine motor skill, counting, most, fewest, least, and even some beginning adding and subtracting. Our next paper is another counting activity, but in this one we're going to introduce the concept of guessing or predicting. So we want them to look at the different hearts, and you could talk about small, medium, large, and see if you could find something in your house that would be a small size, a medium size, and a large size. But when we look at these with the, say, candy hearts, we want your little one to guess. How many hearts do you think will fit in here? And then once they've given you your guess, either they can write a number or you can write it in for them, and then go back to your candy hearts and see how many you can get in there. Now you could say that it has to be completely inside the line, and that if it's on the line it doesn't count. That'll probably make it easier to do these. So they're also going to have to be doing a little bit of spatial orientation there. So once you've got those actually in, count them with the one-to-one pointing correspondence, and then compare your guess to the actual count. You could do this for the 3 different shapes. You can also put the hearts along the edges, just as another fine motor, either with the tweezers, or this is fine motor just simply pinching these candies. We can also use these hearts to go back to that concept of small, medium, and large, and see how your child can show those items using their own body. Can you make your body into a small shape? Can you make your body into a large shape? These two are obviously going to be easier because they're 2 ends of a continuum. Going into the medium is a little bit more tricky. You really have to figure out where that happy medium is. So try that with your bodies as well as with the heart. We can take this a little bit further and talk about short, medium, and tall, and compare small and short to large and tall and medium and medium. One way that you could try to show this is to take your little heart erasers. Now this activity, again, you could use the tweezers or you could just use that pincher grasp. And then instead of laying them flat, see if you can build a short tower and a large or tall tower and a medium tower. Oh, I need one more in here. And then what you could do, just like what you did before, once you've created your pile, go ahead and count them and see if you can make them the same. This might not read very well with a straight down camera, but if we have 2 towers, have them see how many they need to add to make the tower the same height. With this paper, you are looking for similarities and differences. This is a useful practice. It's actually called visual discrimination. It is going to be really helpful if kids have developed that ability to look closely at things and notice differences. That will come into play when they learn to read and learn their letters of the alphabet. You have to pay close attention so that you know the differences between a B and a D and a P. Those have the same shapes in them, the same size, but it's just the orientation of the straight up and down. So look at this paper, talk about what you see, count what you see, and then challenge your child to find the one that is different. Once they find the one that's different, they can cover it up with one of our hearts, whichever kinds you like here. And they can also say, you could talk about how could you make them the same? Or what is the same about these? What is different about this one? So just use this as an opportunity to talk through what is the same and what is different. And so we have some that change orientation, some that change colors, some that change quantity, and some that change, I guess, just attributes there. Singing and doing finger plays and rhymes is a great way to learn the patterns and the sounds of language. So we have several little songs and rhymes here that you can do with your little one. The first one is to a very common tune. I'll make a bright red Valentine, Valentine, Valentine. I'll make a bright red Valentine and give it right to you. You could go ahead and change the words in that one of who you're giving it to. Give it to mommy, give it to daddy, give it to grandma, give it to abuela, whoever you want to give it to. And you can also change the color. Maybe you want to sing it with your pink hearts, or maybe you want to sing it with your purple hearts, or maybe you want to change the quantity. I'll make 2 bright red valentines, valentines, etc., etc., and then keep adding one in so that you can change the number, change the color, change who you're giving it to. Just play with the song and change the words and change the meaning. You can actually also turn your child into a Valentine. Pretend that your little one is a piece of paper. You might have to write on him, and I'm sure they'll enjoy those tickles. You might have to wrap them up, maybe using a blanket to wrap them up in an envelope, pick them up and deliver them somewhere. Adding that physical component will really, well, it will be fun, first of all, at least for them. Maybe not as much fun for you, but it will be fun to add that, and it adds that physical component. Here's another number or math skills activity you can do. Using any of the things that you have, just go ahead and make a couple of piles. And then ask your child to tell you which one has more. You can either just have them point, or you can have them move one of the other hearts, or you can have them move it with their fingers. So go ahead and do this. Start with 2 sets. And then add on to 3 sets, and you probably want to make it as obvious as you can. So you make sure that the difference is more than just 1 or 2. And there we go. And then see if you could tell them which is the smaller. You can actually move your piles to make the smaller number on the left. Envision a number line here, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. So with that, you've worked on quantity, you've worked on identifying most and least, and you've worked on ordering numbers, which, you know, that's really important, that we need to understand that in counting, 2 comes after 1, 3 comes after 2, 4 comes after 3, and so on. If you want to make that last activity even trickier, go ahead and mix what you're putting in piles. So you might want to put you might want to mix them with all 3. Now, let's still again try and make it obvious. Now here, these piles, oh, we better do this. These piles look very different from one another because they're mixed items. It's not a similar group. So this will be more of a challenge, but it's the same idea. Find the one that has the least, the lowest number, find the one that has the most, the highest number, and which one is in the middle, and then go ahead and order them like you would on a number line. And of course, you can pick them up using your tweezers. Now, I will say that these little hearts are quite difficult to pick up with the tweezers because they're very thin. I would recommend that with the candy hearts and with the eraser hearts, go at the widest point and go sideways, not from that way. We can use the various types of hearts to work on some patterning. Now, to make patterning more easily understood to kids, it's great to add in a physical component. So we can say, every time you see a candy heart, rub your tummy and say, yum. So now if we have 2, you have to do yum, yum. And you can add more just to really get that idea in. Then put those away and pull out, let's say these ones. And maybe every time you see a crystal heart, you jump up and down and say thump, 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 thump. So here we go. Thump, 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 thump. Add in a third one. And you could say that the color doesn't matter here, or you can use all the same color. I think I have another red one in there. Thump, 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 thump. Now you reintroduce the previous one. Yum. And then add in our new one, a jump and a thump. Thump, thump. Yum. Thump, thump. And add in another one. And so you keep adding on, and you can do an A-B, which is alternating. You can change the pattern to be 2, and then 1, and then 2, and then 1. So it would be yum, yum, jump and thump. Yum, yum, jump and thump. And if you want to get this across a little more easily, spread these out and physically move your body down so that you see that each one of those hearts is indicating a certain action and sound. Have some fun with these, see what kind of actions you can come up with. Maybe you have to do a big smile and turn around, and maybe on the soft one you have to pretend it's a pillow and lay down and sleep. You have 2 sheets of cardstock, a little bit heavier, with the different letters of the alphabet, and we have included the additional letters in the Spanish alphabet. You'll notice we have the dotted lines, which usually indicates cutting. So either you can cut these out or you can ask your little one to do it. To make it a little bit easier for them, maybe you would cut them into horizontal strips and then your child would just be cutting a shorter cut line. To have a long cut line, it's going to take a lot more work because you really have to maneuver your hand in there with the scissors. So go ahead and cut these out into their individual letters, but don't cut between the upper and lower case yet. Once you have your letters cut out, you can go ahead and do some alphabet letter recognition and some sound recognition. Put down just a few. You don't want to overwhelm and stick the whole alphabet out there, but maybe you just want to put, 2 or 3 or 4. And which letter makes the sound like mommy, like mouse? Which letter makes the And then your child could go ahead and put a heart on top of that or pick it up, whichever way you want to do it. So you could continue that with various sounds. If your child knows more sounds and letters, add in more. You can also go ahead and spell their names out. And then talk about each letter as you do that. So here we have Nimra. What sound, what letter does that start with? Show me where the is. There it is. Can you put a heart on the M? There it is. Or maybe you want to take the letters of their name, mix them up, and see if they can find the first letter of their name. With your alphabet cards, you can also do some matching of uppercase to lowercase. If you've cut all these out, now is the time to follow the small dotted line there and let your child cut them, and then you could do the matching. While you're doing this, again, talk about the letters, talk about the sound. Also, go ahead and trace the letter. Hold your child's hand and trace it on the table, or use your finger to trace it in their hand. Again, adding that tactile, that sensory input really helps. Have you been wondering what those sticky hearts or sticky hands were for? Well, now is the time to get those out. We are going to catch some letters. Now, you'll probably want to put quite a few out and then just let your little one smack that heart until they land on a letter, and then pull it up and talk about the letter. Oh, your heart found the U. U. It makes the sound and then go back and do it again. Now, it's really hard to direct this, so I don't think it's possible to say, get the F, but if you've got somebody that's super coordinated with their little hand sticky, and I'm actually kind of amazed that I just got that one, but you could try saying a specific letter. That might be better if you spread them apart so that they're going to have a better chance of landing on the one they're trying to get. Now, as I said, this is super sticky, so keep it away from hair. With the candy hearts, you can have some tower building fun. How high can you stack these hearts? And if you have a stack of 2, can you add one with the tweezers? That is much more difficult, but freehand, how high can you stack these up? Okay. You can also use these hearts to measure length. So how long are these tweezers? Let's find out. Put hearts right underneath and see how many it will take to make your heart line the same length, just as long as the tweezers. and then you're gonna have a chance to count them. So, how long are the tweezers? They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 tweezers long. Or sorry, 8 hearts long. Can you find something longer than the tweezers? Here are some scissors. Are they longer? They must be. There's our measurement, and we still have more scissors. Let's add some more and see how long the scissors are. And then you would go ahead and count those. And then maybe next you want to say, can you find something that is shorter? Shorter than these scissors? How about our candy box? Oh, we have to take some away because the candy box is shorter than our line of hearts. How many hearts long is the candy box? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can use one of your little heart piles to talk about how many sounds are in words. Now, we don't necessarily want to count per se, but we want to be able to hear the little blocks of sound that make up a word. Now, for us, we know those as syllables, but it's best to teach them as sounds. How many sounds are in the word heart? Heart. Just one. And to add a physical component, you can have your child step each time they say a sound. So for the word heart, they just take one step, heart. Or they can jump, heart. Now, let's go with a longer word. How about candy? Candy. You can clap it, candy. Walk it, step, step. Jump it, candy. And put down hearts, candy. How about Valentine? Valentine. With steps, Valentine. With jumps, Valentine. With hearts, Valentine. We can have a little bit more fun with these candy hearts, if you're willing to get messy, that is. You can put a few of these down. Talk about how hard they are, what they feel like. They sort of feel chalky. And let your child have something that they can use to bang. Let them go ahead and see what happens when they hit these things. There we go, it's gonna crack. If you have a mortar and pestle, that's even better because it's gonna have a small container and they can move it around and just really feel how that crumbles and cracks. It's just fun experimentation, really building on that curiosity that kids have. Here's another way to do a bit of scientific exploration. Get a small container of water and bring out your various types of hearts and predict, guess, what will sink and what will float. And talk about what makes something sink because it's heavier, it's less buoyant, it's more dense. So again, it's a guessing game, a prediction, what's going to happen, and then experimenting to find out. And if something does float, can you make it sink? What can you do to try and make it sink? And this is our open-ended challenge here. What happens if you put something else on top of that one? Will that make it sink? So lots of playing here. Oh, see what sinks, see what floats. And when you put the hearts in, you could find out, will they dissolve? What does it mean to dissolve? It's going to take more time than I can show you here on the video, but put those hearts into water, and maybe you want to get a couple of other fluids, maybe some soda pop, maybe some milk, maybe some vinegar, and see if they all dissolve at the same rate or if one of the liquids makes them dissolve faster. Now we have all these little bitty things, some of mine are wet now, but these are great to put into sensory bins. A sensory bin is just a bucket with some material in it that kids can stick their hands in and move around and play with. When we did our water beads a couple of months ago, that was a great sensory bin. You can also put dried pasta, dried beans, rice, sand if you have it, but that's way messy. The benefit about the dried foods is that it's easy to clean up when it falls out because they're still in their whole piece as opposed to little grains of sand. So I actually took some rice. I put it into a Ziploc bag, added a little bit of food coloring, and just mixed it in. And I ended up with some super dark red rice. I'm gonna go ahead and pour that into my bin. And I got some pink rice. So this can be a great little sensory bin. You can go ahead and stick your little thingies in there, bury them in the rice, and then with 2 colors of rice, you can really mix it around. Now this, with a little sensory bin, is just the perfect time to use these tweezers to pick at things, to pull them out. Use scoops, pour, scoop and pour. Pour it into a container, pour it back. You can put your letters in here, bury the letters. What letter can you find? So, all sorts of things that you can put in here and just play around with, but it's really good for kids to touch all different sorts of textures to get that sensory input and to just play around with it.